to another episode of With Sonar. I am Luke Velasca bringing you another episode, and we've got a really good lineup for you. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Kyle Taylor. Kyle, thank you for joining me yet again. We're almost at the middle of June here already.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's we're right at the end of H1, so half one's coming to an end. We're going to see how the second half of the year starts to progress. Should be a little bit more optimism, but I'm sure we'll dive in a little bit today on what's to be expected.
Yeah, certainly potentially for a volatile. I'm going to get my seat adjusted here. You'd think I would have done that before the show, but
COVID-15, right? COVID-15, not the college 15, but the COVID-15.
That's right. That's right. That could be a real thing. No, that actually, like, legitimately, I gained a lot of weight, not a lot, but some weight during COVID, and I was like, what am I doing? They opened gyms back up, so I started doing some cardio, started to get back in the gym, and I've lost most of it. So I got 5 pounds to go to finish off that 15.
It's just the camera. It's just the camera.
It's just the camera. Come on. Can you make me look thinner, please?
Yeah. Team, can I get a little bit thinner of a body here?
Yeah, right. Oh goodness, that's not the body we talked about. Come on. No, but no, I think things tend to be on the up, right? Definitely some positive news. I know, we still don't want to forget the social distancing. We still want to make sure that everybody is, maintaining proper hygiene and social distancing because we want this thing to go away, or at least as suppressed as possible, so that we can enjoy the good things life has to offer again. But yeah, getting back to freight, I mean, I think it could potentially be a volatile back half of the year, but potentially, a lot more, ups than the downs, I think.
Well, I think it's really just putting more things in perspective, because you had so many losses that were occurring through this COVID, really the second quarter. So if you just, made the second quarter a wash, or you came out negative, you're trying to think, how am I going to be able to recoup this so when I do my end of year financials, I can at least look at my board members and say this was a decent year, given what had happened. And so I think that's going to be really interesting, especially as new supply chain routes are occurring. I think that's the biggest thing that's really coming out of these past couple weeks, is that automotive is getting back online. Big e-commerce boom, so different trade routes. I mean, we were talking about beer the other day between our own team, and it's like, all right, even these big beer manufacturers that are used to shipping a ton of kegs are now just doing a lot of smaller cans. So the change in commerce, or the change in modes that are associated with that are coming. So what's coming with that? Here's a 1,000-lane package for you, Luke. I hope you like it. I'm Anheuser here. I want to see what your rates are.
That's right. That's an important piece. We're going to talk a little bit about rates too, and that, like, volume levels are up right now. Volume levels are higher than they were last year, and they're higher than they were in 2018. A lot of people are like, the freight market's terrible, it's down. It's not down. Volume levels are up. They are higher. They are the highest that they have been in 2 years. We haven't seen these volume levels before, not even in 2018. But that's not the whole story, right?
Right.
There's still a lot of capacity in the market, and rates are still very suppressed. Now they are starting to come back up, and I think this is a period of time when you might start to see some mini bids happening, but carriers are a little reluctant to kind of lock in these new lower rates, because a lot of them are operating at a loss right now, and that's not sustainable. And those are some things we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult topic, but someone's got to talk about it. So why not the two guys on With Sonar?
That's right. We have the data.
We have the data.
We have it. We have all of it. All of it.
No, exactly. And so
except for how many people had the COVID-15 with me.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
I'm sure someone had the COVID-5s, and some other people maybe had the COVID-20. So
talking about weight gain, if you haven't picked up on it.
No, exactly. It's all these snacks. I became a big habitual pretzel or peanut butter stuffed pretzel guy that they're selling at Publix these days, that I'm just completely taken down by the shovelfuls. But that's neither here nor there.
I had to change up my snack game. I couldn't, because I was, I used to, maybe have something like with Nutella, and that's got a lot of sugar in it, so I had to cut that stuff out, maybe go to like some veggies and like hummus or something. You got to mix it up. when you're not moving around as much. But
yeah, just like you're changing up your snack game, supply chain routes are changing up as well. What a segue! But so
that was amazing.
So I think what we're really wanting to depict is like how can you de-risk your position here?
Yep.
Because it's a risky time right now. The decisions you're making right now are really going to dictate how profitable you are. And if you're already running super lean or above that 100 OR, then is volume really the answer? I mean, volumes always seems to be the answer with carriers. It's okay. Well, I'm going to take this at a very slim, a couple dollars of margin that we're actually going to take off this, but I want 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with taking that very slim margin. But so what do you do now?
Let's talk about OR for a second. So for OR, for our non-carrier friends watching, OR stands for operating ratio. Essentially, it measures how profitable a carrier is operationally, right? So if you have an OR, and let's actually go ahead and flip up the screen here for folks to be able to see. So if you notice here on the screen, you basically have 97.5, 100, 102.5, so on and so forth. If you have an operating ratio of 100, I'll put my cursor right there on 100. That's right about 100. We'll say that's 100. Right? That means that the carrier is breaking even. So if they get paid $100, it costs them $100 to move that load. Now, technically, if you operate at a 100, you're still technically operating at a loss. There's a couple of things that aren't included in there, like a couple of overhead things that aren't included. So you really need an extra 1 to 2%. You really need to be operating at about a 98 to make money.
Right.
But for sake of example, we use the operating ratio here, which is, so right now, that blue line that you see there, that blue line is dry van fleets. Those are dry van fleets. Now this is TCA, Truckload Carrier Association data that we get on a monthly basis. This is updated as of the end of May. So really it's only 10 days old. Very good here. These are financial statements that we have from all those companies. A lot of fleets in here. Represents fleets ranging in size from 10 trucks to 7,000 trucks, everything in between. So basically the average is 100.6 for dry vans right now. And that's actually down from where it was. It was at 101.5 last month. Now it is up from where it was in March. We were at a 98.9, so very, very slight. But again, we were operating in the red for November, December, January, and even February. So it's really only been 1 month this year that we have been operating in the green. Now, and if you see here, that orange line, that's flatbed. That's even worse. Those guys would be getting hammered even worse. They're at a 103.6. Reefer is at just above a 100.6. So they're basically right where flatbed is. But they've been doing a little bit better. They had a much better March and a much better January and December. So what does this mean? Why, these folks are operating a loss. Is that sustainable?
Well, I mean,
obviously.
Yeah.
But what does it mean, I guess?
Basic laws of econ, right? You need to have more coming in than going out. Right. And so what that's really telling me is that these carriers have, the amount of revenue coming in does not support the business to be able to sustain. And so if you've been in the trucking industry, you know how cyclical the cycle is. So you know that you're going to take losses from time to time. It's just what happens. Capacity gets tight. That's the risk of taking the long-term agreements. Is that that it's going to be low. There's going to be times that you're going to be in power, so you're going to be making more profit than normal, and then you're going to see the other times where you're a little bit slimmer, and you just hope that it all evens out. And so really what this means is that we might be seeing more companies starting to fizzle out if this sustains.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a good point. Everyone's like, yeah, lock in the low rates, but that actually might be bad for everybody, brokers and shippers included, and obviously some carriers, because at some point, if we keep running ORs at 100 or above, carriers will go out of business. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how many.
Right, and if you're a large carrier, you'd like to think of yourself as, like, it can't happen to me. My business it can't happen. But we saw that's exactly what happened. Celadon had all of these automotive contracts.
3,000 trucks?
Yeah, they had all of these contracts, and they locked in these long-term rates, and they just worked very unprofitable. And then, mean, obviously there was some nuance there that they
Sure.
were being affected by decisions made before the C-level staff that was in there that ended up going under. But it can happen. And so that's where it's making these decisions on these contracts now. You know, is it better for us to do a mini bid? Is it better for me to just not submit and just go find maybe better densify another lane that I have a very good network in? And so that's the difficult part of the puzzle that we're trying to piece together. But like any good segue, in order to identify how these market conditions are doing, I need some market conditions.
Yes, you do, and we have those. And this is actually, you made up a good point. Before we completely segue into those market conditions, I think what this brings up a good point in terms of rates. Rates are still fairly suppressed. They are on the rise. We've seen tender rejections come up. Rates follow those tender rejections, usually a few days behind. But I think in a lot of situations, we've talked about how volume levels are high. Carriers don't know where they have pricing power. They don't know that they have the advantage in a lot of areas. Yeah. And I think that's a big problem. So when we look at this market level data, what they need to know is that, yeah, there's a ton of volume out there. Stop accepting loads at a 100 or a 101 OR. They don't need to. They don't. In some areas, yes, right? You're moving a dry van load out of Miami, yeah, you're taking a loss. We know that, right? Most of the time anyway. There might be an exception once or twice. But that being said, there are more areas that they have more pricing power than they realize. This does not need to be the reality.
Right. Right, and you hope that with these long-term relationships that these carriers are setting up with the shippers, that hopefully you set up with a shipper of choice, or a shipper that it really drives the relationship between themselves and the carriers or the logistics partners that they're working together with. Because at the end of the day, if your shipper's coming to you and saying, hey, listen, we're rebidding this lane because taking advantage of the market, rates are extremely low right now. So if your customers are doing that, and you held steady through this COVID, you said no, I have a lot of integrity. I'm not going to jack up my rates just because I can. It is a two-way street, and so you do have to be prepared to walk.
Absolutely, 100%. No, and that kind of I like that, because tender rejections, I think, tell that story. We talk a lot about tender rejections, but it's because they're so valuable to what's happening, right? They basically tell you how carriers are reacting to the market, right? They're telling you how they're reacting to market conditions, and we have the ability to see that in almost real time. We've seen tender rejections really rise. Obviously, they had that massive spike, that abnormal spike during the panic buying surge in March, and then they dipped way down to an all-time low that we've seen right around 2%. Right. But now they're coming back up. They're almost at 6% right now. And really, a few days ago, they actually surpassed 2019 levels. Right. I mean, like, carriers have more options today than they did in 2019. They should be making more money now than they did in this time in 2019.
I just think it's very segmented also. I mean, it's market to market. It's not where people are notoriously expecting these volumes to be coming from. Right. And so also it may be, the rich get richer kind of methodology, that the people who had these contracts set up initially, maybe they're getting first pass at some of these new supply chains with these customers that they had. Maybe Kraft is doing a little bit, changing their routes. Maybe they're, shutting down certain DCs and now not exporting, but maybe they're fulfilling their stores from different DCs. Yeah. And so for them, they're saying, well, I'm just going to go through my network first and not go to the spot market. So maybe this increase in volume isn't actually hitting the spot market yet.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And what we've done here on the screen, just for folks that are watching at home, you're looking at the tender rejection rate. This is over the last 3 months. I'll zoom in here over the last month. You can actually, that blue line is 2020 tender rejection, sitting at 5.73% as of yesterday. Yeah. And in green, you have 2019 tender rejection levels sitting at just over 5%. So you can see it was on the 26th that we surpassed 2019 rejection levels. So things are headed up. And remember, spot market rates will follow this blue line. Yep. Right?
No, that's true.
And let's go ahead, and you already said this, right? It's segmented in certain areas. Let's go ahead and look at that. This map of the United States right here, these markets.
Seems like our favorite map. Always is.
Oh, it's the best map. This is the money map, right? You want to make money?
Yeah,
Are you
right,
in business to lose money, or are you in business to make money?
Hey, listen, Luke, back off. I really like my strategy. I kind of call my buddy. I like to just put my finger in the air. I know I've been in this industry 20 years. I don't know what you're talking about. That little, snake oil you're selling there, trust me, I know where the volumes are. Right? All sarcasm. Sorry about that.
I've talked to a lot of folks that have a lot more experience. I came from the brokerage world, and I talked to folks that have 20, 30 plus years of experience, and I can tell them things about the market that they didn't know. If they have this information, they would run circles around me because they've got so much more experience.
Yeah.
Doing things. They just need the information. They need to know what's happening around them. They just need to know what's happening outside of their network.
They just need that whetstone to sharpen that knife a little bit. That's all you need.
That's all you need. Anyway, this map right here that we're looking at, this is weekly tender rejection change. This is my favorite map. I don't care if you're a broker, a shipper, a carrier, you can value from this. This is just like we were saying, right? Things are happening in different areas. We know rejections are going up. In the blue markets, tender rejections are on the rise. That's going to increase spot market rates. That's going to make it more difficult for shippers to cover their loads because they're going to have to dive in deeper to their routing guide. Yeah. The carriers that they typically rely on to move their contracted freight aren't there. They're rejecting the freight. And if it gets rejected too much, they're then forced to move it on the spot market. Yeah. These blue areas, carriers don't need to be, depending on the network, there's always exceptions, but in a lot of these blue markets, carriers should be running at a positive OR.
Yeah, and just because you kind of hit that right on with the tender rejections going up is something that Zach Strickland had brought up to us. It's not just that price is going up; it's actually service is going down, because as we see with route guides and the strategy behind route guides are really that. You have your network set up, and your top tier guys are, let's be real, the cheapest, most service. They're the cheapest carrier that can give you the highest service is really that number one what usually happens. And then as that falls down, that service goes down and that cost starts to go up. Yep. And so what we actually are noticing is not only a solid proxy for what's going on in the spot market, but we're also seeing service starting to drop when we see tender rejections go up. So from a shipper's point of view, that's exactly what I'd be looking at is that I wouldn't think about it as, oh, my cost is now going up. Oh, my service is going down. They're definitely, inversely correlated there.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And that's a big thing, right? And shippers like to keep, they want that service level high. And we're also, there's also a lot that's going to get, I think, shaken up in networks, right? Mm-hmm. With the change in volumes, change in rejections, the change in service levels, carrier networks and shipper networks are going to get thrown out of balance. Yeah. Right? There's just there's a shift in capacity, folks entering the market, folks leaving the market.
Yeah, and also how people reacted to the COVID. So people who had surplus capacity, that they were able to kind of be that Johnny on the spot that we always talked about like 5-6 weeks ago. These are going to, when these new mini bids come out, these are going to be the first people that are going to get first stab at them. Yeah. And so it comes down to the risk that you're willing to take, because RFPs in a time like this, they give me the chills, because the rates are going to be so low, and then what's going to happen is that if you're even able to maintain a 98% acceptance rating with some of these carriers or with some of these shippers, you're driving up your OR. Yeah. And so it's the worst thing you could potentially do, but like, how do you combat that?
I'm gonna pull up an example here real quick. Go ahead and flip the screen up here for our viewers to see. So I clicked on the Memphis market right here, and it populates this chart here on the right. Check this out. Tender rejections are sitting at 8.5%. That's over 3%. Wow. That's 3% higher than the national average. Now, Memphis has a lot of outbound volume, has, generally speaking, more outbound volume than inbound volume. We know that. But rejection levels just on June 1st were at 4%. They were at 4% just 9 days ago. And that was like some of the highest they had been over the course of the last month and a half. This is the thing. If you're getting a mini bid in a place like this, and you're operating off of things are low, you know what? You don't know that. If I'm a carrier or even a broker, I don't know that I have a big advantage from the shipper. Or if I'm the shipper, I don't know that I'm at a disadvantage. right? These are things that they need to know. And this stuff, it changed in basically an instant, right? I mean, from June 1st to really today, I mean, in 9 days' time, it more than doubled, up over 100%.
And it's interesting because
it's like stocks.
The average length of haul, that's like me doing stocks. You know, buy high, sell low. That's always my methodology, right?
You and me both, man.
But what we saw here was actually with the average length of haul really started to, it's stayed over 600 since about early May. And so, but recently, to correlate with that, it really spiked up, but it's kind of settling back down. Came up from about 620 up to 650 for the average length of haul, and now we're settling back in at about 630.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a very interesting identifier there, especially because that's like right in that tweener haul. You know, that's in that 1 to 2 day kind of that in between kind of tough load. That's really not the most profitable. So. Very interesting. I'm sure that's probably why tender rejections are going up, because that's not a very enticing lane to be running in. 600 miles.
Yeah, it definitely a lot of carrier waste there.
Yeah.
I know a lot.
So that's
of
like a day and a half. Run time.
You're kind of sitting around a little bit, waiting to have to get loaded, or
you pick it up in the morning. It's like you might be able to do that, but if you don't have a 24/7 warehouse open, then you're staying overnight.
You're wasting a day trying to find another load. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, this is stuff. I mean, it's happening all over the place, right? Memphis is just one example. There's even more extreme examples happening in other areas, and this is kind of where I tell folks. I mean, like I was looking at Las Vegas. Las Vegas is through the roof right now. Not a huge market, but again, it's just knowing when you're in a position. So let's go back to ORs for a second. We were talking about these operating ratios where carriers are at a loss.
Yeah.
They don't have to be, and eventually. Carriers are going to understand that they're in the advantage in certain markets, but if they don't learn fast enough, a lot of them are going to go under operating at this loss for this long, and that's going to really tighten up capacity, and rates are really going to shoot up if that happens.
Yeah.
If that happens, shippers and brokers will get screwed if that happens.
Yeah, so it's we talk about, it's almost like a co-op kind of situation we need a little bit, but as a shipper, it's not always trying to drive down the rates. But if you are a shipper and you are the VP of transportation that's setting up these route guides or a pricing guy at these shippers, and you are making that decision to rebid right now, when this comes out and people are rejecting and now your acceptance rates are at like 90%, who are they going to look at? They're going to be like, hey, why is my transportation budget a little out of line? And so that's going to be a very interesting way to identify things. I mean, you came out of 2018 is, how many transportation managers were still in their original role after that huge just transportation budget bust, you'd probably call it.
It was a rough year for sure. And then they got a taste of the good life again in 2019.
Brought someone new in, and then, oh my God, look, we're in paradise.
We're killing it. Come on, keep locking in, push the rates down, lower. It's like, well, you know what, lower isn't really always the game. It can come back to bite you later on.
Always comes back to that shipper choice. If you are someone who's really, you don't want to be taken advantage of when it's in the carrier's behalf, then you can't take advantage of them when it's in your behalf.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to lower your transportation costs if you're a shipper. There's nothing wrong with wanting to, increase your revenue per load as a carrier, right? Those are good things. But, just trying to, change those metrics for sake of changing those metrics without looking at what's happening isn't helpful at all. If you're never looking at ORs, right, and you're just, and you're constantly saying, oh yeah, we're locking it in, we're low, the rates are going down, eventually you're going to eat up a lot of those carrier supply as they go out of business, and that's going to come back and rates are going to shoot up. Same thing on the carrier side, right? If you take too much advantage of these shippers when the pendulum swings in your direction, right? They're going to say, hey, bye, when we don't need you anymore.
Right.
So, you have to learn to come back down as well. So there is definitely learning to play the pendulum a little bit and understanding where you have the advantage and when you don't, so that you can make the most of it.
Yeah. These, shippers, they definitely have a long-term memory, and so do the brokers. So they'll definitely remember, but the shipper seems to hold that a little bit more. I always remember.
I don't know what brokers you say have a long-term memory. I don't. I forgot what I ate for lunch.
Yeah, what? I just had a shipper chew me out, and I said I'd never work with them again. And what did I do? I quoted them the next time.
Yeah, exactly.
What do I see on the subject line? Echo, like Global Trans, like 17 other brokerages, and it's like, well, let's throw a dart in here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Come back crawling. I'm so sorry.
Please
let me have some freight.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
That's spot on. While you were kind of pulling up that Memphis market, I looked at the actually inbound rail loaded volumes.
Okay, yeah.
And actually, there was a massive
Are those containers? Is that intermodal container volume?
Containers, because Memphis is also really known for being a good dray hub. So you have a lot of these transloading and various modes that are coming out of that. So what I'm thinking is that we've had a lot of. We actually look back, we had a lot of containers coming in. I mean, we're talking about like a couple thousand a day containers coming into the Memphis market, and then all of a sudden, tender volumes shot up.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see that there's probably some transloading and warehouse activity that's occurring right now. But
that makes a good point. I bet if we started looking at all the data sets and all the different modes of transportation, start correlating from ocean to rail and intermodal and truckload and LTL and
right. Let's look up some Savannah customs data, right?
You want to look at Savannah customs data. But no, Savannah. I was actually looking at their customs data the other day, and it's they're beginning to get more and more imports consistently, and that's been driving a lot of growth. Volume levels out of Savannah have been on the rise. They have. I think a lot of it's due to that customs. Now it does take time when you can actually get a head start. The stuff comes in through the ports, and it usually takes a few days or even a week or two to translate into truckload volume.
Right.
So you can actually get an idea like a week or two before to start shifting trucks over there to capture some of that volume.
Or even from like the empties on the containers. It's a really good way to identify certain upticks in either domestic or international movement. Yeah. So very interesting to see all this alternative data that we talk about. You got all the data. What else do you want to know? You want to know what time it is? You want to know what day of the week? Like, what else can we do for you?
It is Wednesday.
It is Wednesday. Thanks, computer.
Not everywhere.
Yeah, but no, it's just trying to piece that whole picture together.
Yeah, so I think we could be here all day. I mean, pretty soon, we're
going to let us know. You want us to continue?
What are the tender rejection rates going to space, right? We're sending ships to space now, right? Come on.
Right, yeah, no, exactly. What's the next, we're going to send this computer up with a Tesla car? Is this going to be on one of the center consoles and a Tesla soon?
That's it. No, that's not high tech enough.
No.
Come on, man. What are you working? Come on, these are
Sorry, is this not touchscreen?
Yeah, like, come on, hello?
No. Dang it. Elon would be so disappointed with the lack of touchscreen on here.
I know, really. And then, if you think about it, the computers that sent some of the first spaceships into space were probably it didn't have anywhere close to the power this thing did.
Yeah, no, that's
kind of a crazy thought.
That's spot on. I'm still waiting for that order of the space suits, the Tesla space suits or the SpaceX suits.
Yeah. While we're off topic, I heard a rumor that Apple is going to release glasses in the next year to 2 years.
Really?
Yeah. So supposedly they're making an announcement about it soon. And just like, remember how Google Glass tried to do their thing?
Yeah.
The difference with these is they look like normal prescription glasses, very slick. Yeah, clear, everything. It'll project the screen on the inside for the user, but somebody on the outside won't be able to see that.
So how am I going to wear my blue light lenses to block the screen, the blue lights?
Yeah, I saw something about that, right? So it's like the year 2000, screens are bad for your eyes. Year 2020, it's like, hey, give me glasses.
Yeah, put them this close to my face. Yeah, doctor, I don't know why I have all this strain and headaches going on currently. Well, what'd you do? Well, I bought these Apple glasses.
Yeah, basically I look at an iPad an inch away from my face all day long. Is that bad? I don't know.
No, no, can't be bad.
That's great. Yeah, do it again. Come on.
Yeah, get you a sonar screen right in front of that. Yeah. I mean, what else could you need? Now we're talking about brokers having too many screens on their desk. Now you just throw some glasses on.
That's it. I've gotten spoiled. Like I have got 3 screens, and one's like a mega curved monitor that I look at these sonar charts on.
Standard issue here.
And then sometimes I try to work off my little laptop here, and I just get totally thrown off. It's crazy. But anyways, I know we're getting here towards the end of time. Kyle, it's always a pleasure. Thank you again for joining me. We had a good conversation. I think there's some good stuff. I know I don't look at OR all the time, but I think it was helpful. So folks, for joining us, thank you again for watching. We will see you next Wednesday at 4 p.m. and have a fantastic day.